That's the midah of Am Yisrael Chai. Every single one of us, we have this tikva. Now, even if there's chas v'shalom churban and this that, you know how many stories we read in the Gemara, right? They were looking at the churban of the Beit Hamikdash, and there's foxes going back and forth, and all the chachamim are crying. All of a sudden, Rabbi Kiva starts laughing, right? They're like, why are you laughing? How could you laugh at a moment like this? He says, yeah, because I see that if the prophecy came true, that if the Beit HaMikdash is supposed to be in ruins, then I know the other prophecy is going to come true, that the Beit HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt. B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to have the third Beit HaMikdash soon. So that all comes from these nekudot tovot that you find within yourself. And you should know, just to add a little flavor to this, it's the same thing in relationships. Right? It's the same thing. B'ezrat Hashem, you're getting married soon. You're going to see, it's the same thing in relationships. And all the time you see in a relationship, you could see this person and you could focus on things that are lacking, and you could get into the big why. Why'd you have to do this? Why? Why should you have to say that? Why? There's all these whys all of a sudden. Like, where were these whys? All of a sudden now you get married, there's all these whys. Right? Because these are all nisyonot. Right? Like Rav Arush says in other places, B'ezrat Hashem, we can shmooze about this when we're all in the married gear, B'ezrat Hashem Makarov, right? That a woman is a reflection. It's the reflection of the Shekhinah in your life. Hashem's bringing, like it says, Ezer Kenegdo. These are areas that we have to work on ourselves. Like certain areas, I think it was like, it's really because you're lacking in this. That's why. That's the why, right? Hashem's trying to bring it to your attention. She's a reflection. So it's a very important nekudah to know, to always to see the positive points in everybody. To be able to go through a situation and not to blame the scenario. And it's very, I'm telling you again, it's very easy to say, but 100%. I'm working on it. We're all working on this. It's a very important thing. Tzaddik is the bechina that a person could go through all these bizyonot, all these embarrassments, all these rejections, and still his heart is burning for Avinu Shem Shemayim. Right? One time Rav Eliezer Berland, Shlita, the rabbi of Rabbi Arush, was once walking in the old city, I think, actually in Mea Shearim. He was walking in Mea Shearim, and Breslov was starting to get popular. In Eretz Yisrael these days. Over here, they might throw you out of a shul if you give a Breslov. But in Eretz Yisrael, certain shuls might throw you out also. But it's becoming popular. It's like you go in Eretz Yisrael, it's like you ask Breslov, of course. It's very So, but at a certain point, it was very problematic, and there's still a rush sometimes. So Rav Eliezer Berlin was leading, he still does. He leads a community called Shuvu Banim, and this community they take Breslov very seriously. Like everything Rabbi Nachman says they do. They tikun chatzot. Everyone does at least an hour. At least that's like Rav Eliezer Berlin, they say about it, when he was going into the woods, he told his student that after an hour he should call out his name. Okay, so a student, I think it was Rav Arush actually, when he was younger, he was like being Meshameshim, so after an hour he screams out, he says, Harav, Harav, it's an hour. So then, he doesn't hear anything back, and like about 2-3 hours later, 4 hours later, Rav Berlin comes out, he's like, okay, let's go. They do a dance and this, that, and so then he said, every time this would happen, he said, tell me after an hour, make sure. So then one time he told him, he said, Harav, you tell me to tell you after an hour, but you don't come after. You do it for 6 hours every day, So what's my high? So he said to him like this. He said, why do I want you to tell me? He said, because Rabbi Nachman says that if a person wants to be a little bit broken-hearted, right? He says you should know in Breslov it says everywhere that you have to be besimcha every day, right? 23 hours a day you have to be besimcha. Rabbi Nachman says only gives permission that if you want, for this 1 hour when you're doing it, then you can have a broken heart, you can cry, and this. So he says, why do I want you to call me after an hour? Because I don't want to have that shivron lev, right? After that, I want to, just be besimcha. It's so important. So that was Rav Berland. Shalom. He's not here, but we're giving the shiur that, yeah, please, feel free. Welcome.
What's your name?
Human, nice to meet you. I'm Yonatan. So Rav Berlin was once, you should know, he's walking in the street. We're talking about this inyan of getting so to speak, getting a disgrace, getting a level of bizayon, which means an embarrassment, and a rejection, and to be able to withstand that. Okay, so it says that Rav Eliezer Berlin was once walking in the street in Mea Shearim, and one of these Hasidim of one of the other groups stands on the other side of the street, and he sees Rav Berland Shlita, and he starts yelling at him like disgraceful things, like a Rav, I can't believe you think you're all there. He starts yelling at him, and then the students, like, he's got a couple of students with him, so they're looking like, oh, this guy's crazy, maybe we should do something to this guy, I don't know, this is not right. So then they looked at Rav Berland for a second, and he was going like this.
He was happy.
So then they were like, he was bobbing up and down. So they said, Rav, what are you doing? So he said like this. He said, you know what I'm doing? I'm toveling in the bizyonot. It's like a mikvah, you should know. So I'm like dipping in the mikvah right now of bizyonot, of embarrassment, because it cleanses the soul. So this is an opportunity for me to cleanse my soul. So which connects to what Rabbi Nachman said, that if a person hears his own embarrassment, if somebody embarrasses you, if you keep quiet, when your blood's cooking, when you get embarrassed, you feel your blood like, oh, this guy, I can't, if you're able to shut that mouth and to retain, he says that what happens is your blood is being cleansed of all the sins that you did, that was matame the blood. Right? Because the Tanya says, let's connect Chabad and Breslov, we're in Chabad. So it says, the Tanya says the left side of the heart is the seat for the Yetzer Hara. Okay, and then when a person gives in to certain passions that's not in Kedusha, it pumps impure blood into the system. So he says, but when you go through that embarrassment or that rejection or whatever it is, that disgrace, and you're able to shut off the lips and not like vent it out, right? He says, then that energy is used to cleanse your blood from sins. It's an unbelievable thing, right? We'll stop soon for a couple of questions, but so that's what Rabbi Nachman's saying right here in Lamed Bet. If you look, that a person, he says that you have to know that each and every single one of us, it's a big chesed for each and every single one of us. What we go through. Some of these rejections, you should know it's a chesed. It's an unbelievable chesed, because Hashem wants us, the tzaddik and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they want us to be cleansed when we come into Gan Eden, that we shouldn't go through tikkunim up there. It's a lot easier to go through it down here. That we should be ready and mukhan and muzuman, and we come to Gan Eden, we should, it says sometimes to Chasidim of a certain tzaddik that he has so much compassion that he makes it that those Hasidim should go through a little level of like embarrassment, of disgrace. The scenario comes about in the heavens, they set it up, that in order to cleanse for previous sins, that the tzaddik does that as a schut for that person. Because in Shemaim, they're like, who's this guy? He wants to be with you in Gan Eden. Says, don't worry, we'll cleanse him. But in a much easier way.
That's why it's good to cling to a tzaddik. So that
again, now we're going to have to see. First of all, there's many pieces all over Breslov. See, one area of Breslov we spoke about is hitz bodedut, so speaking to Hashem in your own words, which is very important. Another major area of Breslov, it's called hitkashrut letzadikim, connection to tzadikim, the role of the tzaddik in your life. Right now you should know. This is a bigger discussion. We'll save it for other times. But the role of your connection to tzaddikim, it goes so much further than what we imagined till now. What we imagined till now is, it's very good, tzaddikim, Baruch Hashem, you feel a certain connection, you put a little picture of the Lubavitch Rebbe in your room, okay, great, Baba Sali, okay, good, Yishtabach Shemo, very nice. But it goes far beyond that. It's related to the Etzem Nefesh, that there's a certain spark there that's related to the etzem soul of every individual, right? And that they actually help you in Shemayim. I just want to tell you a little insight. It says that in the Kitvei Arizal, that every time when a person does mitzvot, he's accumulating ore. He's accumulating this unbelievable light that's sort of waiting for him in Gan Eden. Because the highest pleasure possible, far beyond anything in this world, is this light and this pleasure that we're going to have in Olam Haba. Right? That's a translation of the mitzvot and the Torah that we do in this world. So he says, so now all of a sudden, so we have these Bezrat Hashem, we have this tremendous orot in Shemayim. Okay? So it says that Arizal says, the Chas v'Shalom, if a person sins, then the Shemayim, there's all these angels that they're like, who's this guy? You know, all of a sudden this disgraceful guy, he's shaykh to all these orot. How could it be? So it says, what do? Then they take this, they take it away. They take this orot away. And where does it go? So the Arizal says that's why everyone should pick a certain tzaddik in Shemayim, right? That's going to be like his representative. That's going to be like his, so to speak, lawyer. And he's going to hold it for him. He's going to keep it for him. Somebody that he trusts, right? And it says that's what we have the kavanah in Shemona Esrei. We say the words, V'sim chelkinu imahem. That you should place our portion with them. Why? The Arizal says you should have this kavanah that if you ever sin, and then the light gets taken away, that it should go to this tzaddik that you've picked, and then that someday when you do teshuvah, he's going to return it to you. Meaning he's going to be there to gather up anything that was lost and to be shomer it for you, and then to return it for you when you do teshuvah. There's so many benefits. We have no idea to be connected to tzaddikim. It goes far beyond. We're gonna have to learn in other sessions, but let's stop a little bit for some questions, and then we'll continue with the next piece.